What does it take to make a great trilogy across the board? Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and Exhibit C. Now let's talk about it. Welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about one of my favorite movie trilogies. And if this video does well and you guys are interested, I'd love to be able to do a series on this of different trilogies, some good, some not so good, and just kind of see where that goes. Now there are some trilogies out there that start great and get better in its sequels, and one of those is the recently completed Planet of the Apes trilogy. If you like the video and like what I have to say, leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what your favorite trilogies are and your thoughts on the Planet of the Apes trilogy as well. This trilogy is one of the best examples of how to do it right. The first one came out back in 2011, and not too many people were excited about a reboot, but then it came out and both critic and audience reception was just widely praised and people loved it. It quickly became a huge summer blockbuster hit, and it stars Andy Serkis, who brilliantly plays Caesar. Now he's the main character we follow throughout the story, and in Rise we get to see how he comes to power and comes into adulthood. By the end of the film, he and his genetically altered followers escape into the Muirwoods to live a life of freedom away from humanity. But, unknown to Caesar, a simian virus has broken out with the chemical that gave him the insight and smarts that he has. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes takes place 10 years after this simian flu has wiped out the majority of the population of humanity. Caesar and his thriving colony live in isolation, only aware that they just see less and less humans every year. In my opinion, Dawn is probably the most rewatchable in the entire trilogy. Not only is the action grand and exciting, but the story is deep and the characters very convicting. I love the similarities that the story has to a Shakespearean tragedy and how it's tied in with a war epic. The combination of the two just is perfect for this kind of story. Caesar is taken from the first movie where he has become a leader, and now in the second movie he has to understand what it means to be a leader and have those good leadership qualities. He must also decide what kind of a leader he wants to be. This movie takes what makes him great and really likable in the first film and really strengthens those qualities even more. Now Caesar wants peace for his colony. When they find out that there's a human colony still nearby, he wants to maintain peace with them. But from within his own colony, there is another ape named Koba, who he rescued in the first movie, but Koba has a different story for his upbringing than Caesar did. Caesar was raised in a loving environment by someone who cared for him, where Koba was raised in a lab and was constantly put through tests and all these horrible things. And so he has a deep hatred for humanity. He sees no good in them. And so Koba and Caesar really butt heads a lot throughout the movie with this. And I love the conflict that they go through between their different views of humanity. Now Dawn ends with Caesar taking responsibility for those mistakes that Koba makes, and War for the Planet of the Apes, the third movie in the trilogy, picks up 5 years later than this. So with the decisions that Koba made in the previous movie, he's started a war between what's left of humanity and Caesar's apes. And so now Caesar is trying to figure out the best way to save as many people and apes as he can and bring peace and end this war. This movie exceeded and surpassed all expectations for what I thought it would be. Like many others, I just expected it to just be war and explosive action the whole time, where Caesar and the Colonel are just facing off against each other throughout the whole movie. After an attack from the Colonel's army, Caesar decides he's going to take his colony, bring them out into the desert, and find a new safe place for them to live. But before they can do that, the Colonel tries to assassinate Caesar. He breaks into his colony and actually kills his wife and one of his sons. So Caesar sends the rest of his colony on while he goes on a revenge mission after the Colonel. Some of Caesar's close friends join him because they're really worried about his well-being and state of mind. Maurice in particular recognizes that his behavior is a lot like Koba's. Caesar also sees this in himself, and he really struggles with his internal darkness throughout the whole movie. One of the things I love most about this movie is it truly proves the power of motion capture and what it is capable of. Now before I close, I just have some kind of overall thoughts of the entire trilogy as a whole and my favorite parts. Especially in the final entry, in War for the Planet of the apes look 100% real. There is no doubt that these are real apes. That is how good these special effects are. I also love Caesar as the main character of these films. Having the opportunity to see his life from birth all the way to death is really not seen that often in movies, especially across a trilogy or something like that. And Andy Serkis does this brilliantly. He really deserved an Oscar, especially for that last movie. He is one of my favorite actors, and I love his portrayal of Caesar. Now, in the first movie, Rise for the Planet of the Apes, it's really this fun, exciting, there's definitely serious moments, but it's the most kind of lighthearted of the three movies. Dawn takes a slightly more serious approach as we look at different aspects of war and internal darkness, that kind of thing. And then the third one with War, we really take kind of an inward turn and really look kind of self-reflection on like, what do I want to be as a leader? I just love what you can learn from Caesar as you're watching him throughout his life and the different phases that he goes through of like initial leadership and then truly understanding what it takes to be a leader and how he's going to leave that legacy for them. So, as I've said many times now, this trilogy is one of my favorites. If you haven't seen any of these movies or have maybe only seen one or two of them, definitely go ahead and watch all three of them. If you can sit down and watch them in order, even better. You're just going to get to see this complete character arc. Now that all these movies are out, I know they have a future planned without Caesar, but these three with Andy Serkis and that character is just amazing, and I love everything that they've done with it. So, if you liked the video, definitely drop a like down below. Leave a comment with your favorite parts from the trilogy. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as I mentioned before, if you want to see more videos like this, also tell me in the comments. I think it'd be really cool if we started up a series where we're just going through these different trilogies. Could be some good ones, some bad ones. I'd love to see where this goes. So, thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.